Aloha and welcome to the Solar Coaster Live Show. I'm here with my co-host Jason Verkaart.
Good morning.
We're really fortunate today to have Mr. Douglas Mcleod. Welcome to the show, Doug.
Hey, aloha, and glad to be here.
All right, Doug, really glad that I reached out to you today and started to talk story about what was going on. So, Doug, give us a little opener about who you are and what you see going on in Maui today.
Thanks. It's nice to get a chance to talk to this audience. My name is Doug Mcleod. I live here on Maui, and I did serve a term as the Energy Commissioner for the islands of Maui, Molokai, and Lanai. I'm also the chair of the Hawaii Energy Conference, and in a prior life was an energy and environmental lawyer on the mainland. So,
what has transpired in the last 6 to 8 weeks in the attempted deployment of a lot of large-scale utility-scale solar systems?
I think one of the big announcements in the last week or so was here in the island with SoftBank. You know, they have an energy subsidiary that had received an award for what was, by our standards, a pretty large utility-scale PV plus battery system. And they've announced that they're withdrawing from that. And based on the last thing I saw from Hawaiian Electric, they were saying they weren't going to try to replace that power. They didn't feel they had time to. So that's certainly been tricky. Then there was a decision on a big island project called Honua, and this is a biomass plant that's been litigated for years. But basically what's happened is that the PUC is requiring them to come in through one of the regular procurements, and the feeling on the street, if you will, is that they are too high priced to be able to compete at today's prices. That it was a project that was originally supposed to go online 2012, probably like 22, 23 cents a kilowatt hour. Pretty tough sell in today's world. And that's, you know, so you have those projects that, you know, at various points seem like they were sure things, and now, you know, are not on the table. Plus, you know, there used to be kind of an understanding that if maybe wind projects were sometimes controversial, that PV projects, you know, fundamentally people didn't have that many issues. But we're seeing consistently now that if you get close to any population areas, at least on this island, you know, you will face community opposition in different degrees. So that's, I guess, just the other piece is that, you know, how are we really going to deal with that?
When we thought about how do we get our state to 100% renewable energies, early on it was, well, there's technical hurdles like Jay was just talking about. And now we started to see this, you know, and then financial hurdles, and then maybe policy hurdles. But now we're at this stage where some of the bigger problems, and maybe even one of the largest problems, is how people perceive being close to these systems and having them, because it's an inherent aspect of being on an island with a small amount of land mass, right? So is there another, are we learning from this process? How do we learn from this process? What are we seeing? Are there opportunities in here to change this tune? Because it's pretty clear to us that we can't every solar system can't go through this process and remain viable. And if we don't change it in some way, shape, or form, then how the heck can we get to 100% renewables, or 50% for that matter?
So, you know, what's going to happen right now is, like you're suggesting, without a change, some of these projects get fought, some of them don't. If you look at the design of the projects that are being fought versus the ones that aren't, they're not using different technology, but the particular group of neighbors isn't finding the same issues. So, I mean, that's where we are, and absent something that's more uniform, you know, you just have kind of a random outcome if you don't know these islands well. And you come in, you know, you may have picked a neighborhood that was very likely to generate opposition.
You got a lot of great people out there working really hard, kind of getting the up-to-date information through this stream. Do you have any message for them? Would you like to share any insights or perspectives before we head out?
Well, aloha SBI folks, and thanks for letting me say hi from Hawaii. You know, I guess if I could throw anything out of what we've been learning the last couple of years, you know, it's probably make sure we understand what our definition of renewables really is and what it's based on. You know, so many of our disputes the last couple of years involve projects that are biomass or other types of projects that have carbon impacts. You know, so our progress here has been driven by RPS. And the way we define the R in RPS doesn't include a carbon component in Hawaii. So we've sort of tried to deal with that in other ways, other pieces of legislation. But if you could say what would have avoided a lot of our disputes the last few years, if we had said from the beginning that our renewable energy that we're going to support with tax credits, the kind that we really want to support and see happen, that it's going to be no carbon or low carbon, however we want to deal with that. But, our original definition here in the island, we didn't have any consideration really of carbon, and that's looking obsolete.
Really appreciate your time. And thank you so much for coming on the Solar Coaster once again, my friend. Thank you.
Always a pleasure, folks. Aloha.